Good morning. Thanks for being here. Just a quick recap on the game Saturday. Happy with the win. All three phases. Not what we wanted, particularly on offense. I know that the turnovers are going to be the biggest glaring issue, which I'm sure I'll get questions and I'll have a few comments on them. But outstanding effort from our defense. Some guys are playing well. We're playing a lot of guys. I want to tip my hat to the defensive staff for that, particularly in the secondary. Really pleased with the progress. Just to point out a few guys, Austin Brawley, another solid game. DJ Walker, Dustin Johnson got his most snaps. I think he graded the highest back there. Mike Mack played basically every snap, and he'd been a huge contributor on special teams. It really stepped up. Blake Leak had his best game grade-wise. His third one as a Bobcat. So he is moving in the right direction. We got snaps from Shea Taylor. Did not play against South Alabama. I think he only played 10, maybe 11 against Syracuse. Had to come out of the game. He was almost to 30. So a lot of good things there. And so we're very pleased with the progress there. And offensively, really all three phases, probably as good as first quarter we've had in my time in a long time. I mean, we come out, we started fast on offense, we got into flow, kept I thought the defense, the play calling kept the defense off balance, hit a couple big passes. We were running the ball, throwing the ball. A lot of good mixture, and then Parker had a tough second quarter. I'm not to break down every turnover, but he's our starter. But there's the quarterback position has got to produce, and we felt like making a change when we did. I've been here 20 years as the running back coach. Hey, so and so's hot. That's what we do. We have made changes at the quarterback position when the production is not there, and that's going to continue to be the case. But Parker's competitor. He's tough. He's a leader. He was a great teammate after we made the decision. He understood. He had great body language. I mean, he did Parker Navarro things even when he wasn't the quarterback out there. So we're very pleased with Nick and the things he got done, and he brings an element to the offense. I mean, he's here because of the portal. I mean, there are good stories too, and it's not always about guys leaving. I mean, he's a great story about the portal and how his path, and I'm glad we got him. So, Kentucky, huge challenge. On the road, SEC school, they're big everywhere and physical. Their defense is, I don't see a weakness. Without breaking them down, I don't see a weakness in their defense. We're going to have huge matchup problems. And then, Coach Stoops, I've known him a long time. We played there, 2015 maybe. He's probably one of the longest tenured coaches in the SEC. His DNA and background with his brothers he was I think Coach Stoops was a secondary coach when we played Miami in Rose Bowl. And so I obviously know his older brother, Coach Stoops, Bob, with my time at Nebraska and actually here. And he does a good job. He's very involved in both sides of the ball, and I tip my hat to him for that. I mean, as a coach, you watch other coaches, and his football team resembles his personality for sure. You can see it on film. So we're looking forward to the challenge. I'll stop there. With that, I'll open up for questions.
Bobby Keegan with the Post. So in the last 2 weeks after each game, you've told us that you guys got the win, but the team didn't play as well as it could have. This weekend, there's kind of no room for error. So where do you kind of make those adjustments to play at your best this weekend?
I think I'll break it down in 3 phases. Defensively, we took a step, in a positive, and that's the data shows that. Offensively, tough second quarter, and it's from the turnovers. Other than that, there was some good. Special teams, they had the punt, the long punt. That's concerning. Missed tackles, and sometimes I can sit here. I can break it down and say, break down. We call it tamping. You're tamping too early. You fire at the upfield shoulder, upfield hip. I can break it down technically, but sometimes on missed tackles, it's the athlete with the ball in his hand. Trey Titus. He breaks some tackles. Sometimes it's just because of sheer ability. And so I'll give Morgan State's punt returner, athletic kid, and he legit broke some tackles. We got to do better. So the 3 phases on making improvement, that's how I see it. I was probably a little distraught post-game with the penalties. After watching the film, there's some things we got to clean up. I love the hits on quarterbacks. We had 12 the first one. I'm not sure the total figure on this one, but it was, again, double digits. And one of them, we got a hand hit, or an open hand trying to bat the ball, got him on the top of the helmet or in the face mask. You can't do that. So there was 2 on the South Alabama quarterback, maybe 3. We had 1 on this quarterback. And it was a touch foul. I mean, it's legit. I agree with the call. It was not a could go either way. It's legit. I saw the whole thing. So I'm not quite as distraught about some of the penalties. We still had too many. I think we had 6 total for 60 yards. We had once, actually, as a coach, we had 7. We had offsetting on 1. And so that's a long answer, but you're correct in saying that we could play better. I did say that. That's how I view it moving forward into the Kentucky game.
Eric Picker, Depth Messenger coach. Kentucky themselves are kind of going through their own quarterback issues in the sense where Vandegrift is a 5-star recruit, Georgia commit, but he's had his own struggles on the field this year. So I don't know how much film you've seen, but what have you seen so far out of him and what he can do on the field?
I've seen more from their defense than their offense. I've seen a handful of clips and just sat in with the defense a little bit yesterday for about 30 minutes. There's some formations in there. They're big. They're going to mix tempo. They're not a tempo team like South Alabama, but they have it. Knowing Coach Stoops, that's tempos. They're just not. That's not what they do, but they do it to keep you off balance. As I view their style of offense as far as the tempos, like us, we have them, but that's not where we live. So again, some of the cluster formations that they physical and run the ball, and then they fake them and take shots. And so we're going to have to be disciplined back there with our eyes, what we call eye discipline. And defend, one of those receivers is 6'3", I think, 6'3" kid, and he can roll. So we're going to have to be smart there so we just don't give up a ton of explosive plays off the play action. But we're going to have to really match their physicality, and their quarterback with any offense has to execute at a high level. We were for the first quarter last week. You saw it, and when that position is executing at a high level, things seem to go smoothly. If to put pressure on that position, the quarterback position, if you can control the run, he has to make some throws. But as you said, highly recruited athlete, and I can't speak to his play other than what the film shows. And I just know he's got guys around him. If we can do our best to take away some of those guys and put some more pressure on him to have to extend things or make some great throws, that gives us our best chance.
And kind of adding on to that, one of those ways to kind of put that pressure on them, their offensive line has shown some weaknesses throughout the year so far. So as a defensive unit for you guys, do you plan on more of a pressure attack sort of philosophy this week?
Yeah, it's probably too early in the week for me to know that. I got to see how practice goes, and the game plan's just getting started. But I think offensively, they've had some injuries. I think and they've kind of mixed and match. I know that their center is a big time player. I mean, they return quite a few guys on offense as far as Kentucky returners, and then they're not a big transfer team. I mean, they don't have a ton of them. But I think they return 3 up front and then 2 transfers on the left side, maybe. The quarterback we know. The tailbacks are Kentucky people. The receivers are Kentucky guys. But they return some experience there. So, pressure versus not pressure. And it's tough on a Monday to say it. And if I did know it, I'd probably dance around it, But I just know we're going to call the things that we think give us our best chance. You can't play man all the time because you're going to be matched up all the time. You try to be multiple back there for the quarterback, and then you got to base those things when they're going fast, which is not a lot. It's a good chess match, and I think Kentucky's got a solid team. I know they're disappointed with the South Carolina game. I'm listening to Coach Stoops. He's a guy that I like to listen to, on some things. I mean, he's a straight shooter. He'll come in. I really appreciate some of the things he said on the portal and NIL, and he's taking a stance on it. It's great for our profession. But he speaks the truth on his team, and they certainly responded against Georgia coming off that South Carolina. You can see it on film, and I respect that, as a fellow coach.
Andrew Bolby at WB. Coach, is there any way that you guys are preparing differently or approaching this game differently than compared to what you guys did for Morgan State?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I told the staff yesterday we're gonna change up a little bit on Wednesday. Wednesday's usually last week or the last 2 weeks it's been a little bit longer practice than what probably needed to be. Heat's got nothing to do with it, but we're going to tweak a little bit with the guys on the length of practice on Wednesday. We feel good Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. What we do, we're going to tweak a little bit, maybe a little bit fresher. It's going to be hot on Saturday, with the noon kick or 12:45 kick. They're going to wake up, have some Lucky Charms, and it's going to be on them, And so we're going to adjust a little bit on Wednesday.
And then just kind of building off that, in terms of the actual mentality of how you guys are approaching the game, is that the same, week to week, or was it different at all?
Whether it's Kentucky or Syracuse, South Alabama, Morgan State, it's respect all, fear none, and that's how we're going to approach it.
Grant Kiefer, WIEB, you kind of talked about your relationship with Stoops a lot, and Big Blue Nation reactionary fan base. A lot of the people down there are already calling for his job. A little bit disappointed with how the season's going. Do you buy into that yourself? No. And do you what would your advice be to him? With a tough target on his back.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. If they're saying that, I don't follow it that close. That's crazy. I mean, the things he's gotten done at Kentucky for their program is Bill Snyder, Kansas State, Frank Solich here. I mean, that's my opinion. I went through that stuff at Nebraska with Coach, and look what happened to them, and how long it's taken them, right? He's done nothing but great for Kentucky football, and how he's gone about it. He's transitioning into, Julie Cromer's legacy. She got us through a pandemic. All right. Part of this staff's legacy is getting us through NIL and where we are in college football. He's leading Kentucky football through a tough time. It's Kentucky, and I'm judging. That's my opinion through the comments he's made through, leading up to your question. And so he has done an unbelievable job. His players show it. They're not a portal guy. They're not a portal team. They're not. They develop, and again, in all 3 phases, they show it. That punt return guy. You guys, Georgia didn't kick to him. The dude is. He's a dynamic player that can play anywhere. And so to me, he is. They're lucky to have him. He's a pillar there. There should be a statue outside the stadium. It's how I see it. That sounds that's probably harsh. You must have had a lot of respect for Kentucky football. I'm just telling you, we played there in that stadium, and the steps they've taken. pretty impressive.
Charlie Fidel with the Post. Coach, Roman Prodi wasn't on the injury report for Saturday's game against Morgan State, but he also was addressed. You mentioned him a bit in your presser after the game. Is there any update on him and his situation?
I think he'll be fine. We had some, it's unfortunate. It was not a serious injury, but it was one that we just had an issue that we weren't sure. You know, I think we got it secured up. And I've been doing this a long time as the first for me, you know, and happening on a Friday evening, going to the movie, you know, and really it didn't hit my desk until Saturday, around lunch, that hey, Roman may not be able to go, you know, and so it was just one of those things, and it's next man up. Mike Mack did it, and we got through it.
Marty Banos, your Ohio Radio. Back to Parker for a moment. I know you wanted to get Nick into the game, and that was a goal, was the game. But for in a situation like Parker was in, was it maybe just good for him to get out, kind of clear his head, and just kind of watch what was going on? I'm glad you asked it, and I probably could have announced or addressed it earlier, but we'd like to play Nick really in the Syracuse game, the first one. You know, just never presented itself, and Parker's playing well, and because Nick brings he's got a skill set, but the last series before halftime, you know, we were discussing it. You know, hey, we're going to get the ball back. Do we want Nick? You know, throw Nick out there? It's a clock situation, and we're inside. We're at the 10, I think, or you know, we're pretty backed up. You know, I had called the timeouts to get the ball back. You know, they were down there in field goal range or whatever, and I used 2 timeouts, I believe, to make, you know, to get the ball back with some time left, and we just felt like, hey, let's go with Parker, you know, because of that situation. And we were probably going to put Nick in then, but then unfortunately had the third pick. But at halftime, that's what we told. Hey, Nick, you're going to start the second half, and off we went. It's a really, really great drive, and it was good to get him reps, and that may continue as we go. I know that we'll be watching the position as we do all of them through the course of the week. Too. Weaver played fantastic on Saturday, and Marcel Walker-Burgess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe Rob on the radio asked about the depth of the D line, and I talked about the secondary because of the injuries, and I didn't talk about the D line, but I think I really am happy with Cam Rice and C.J. Doggett, Braylon. You know, there's depth there, and you the ones that you mentioned. I mean, Brad, that's probably one of Brad's better games. You know.
And he blocked the field goal, didn't he?
Yeah. And so I just really, he blocked the field goal. That's correct. I mean, those guys are playing great. You got to tip your hat to Tremaine Scott, Kurt Maddox, and how they're bringing those guys along. And I was pretty tough on them on a couple of the penalties during the course of the game, but after I get a chance to watch the film and, you know, visit with them, you know, there's one thing that we got to get fixed, and it can get corrected. We're gonna have our open hand's gonna hit a quarterback probably in the face again this year, and I can't overreact when it happens, because we all know if that quarterback is getting people buzzing around his ears, it affects, you know, his thought process and the balls and being thrown down the field. And so we want the production to continue. But those names that you mentioned, Marty, and the ones that I mentioned, absolutely. And I want them to keep coming. I still want them cleats in the ground, coming off the ball, you know, vertical distortion, and getting after that quarterback. That's a mainstay here. I know the stack numbers, they'll come, but we're getting to him, and I want it to keep improving.
After Syracuse, you talked to us about some of the unique ways that you guys prepared kind of for the noise of Syracuse. Is there anything that you guys are doing this week to prepare for an SEC environment? Yeah,
I made the statement. I didn't get us ready for the indoor noise, particularly in the low red zone. 20 to 20, we operated pretty good, and they had it's loud. So we put speakers in the indoor in the off season.
and we need to utilize them and probably get an extra team or two in the low red where, with it cranked up. And I mean, typically when we're on the road on Wednesdays, the offense goes in the indoor, the defense stays in the game field. And then when we're at home, it flips. The offense stays on the game field on Wednesday, and the defense goes in the indoor. All right, and but we will pump the crowd noise to our team, particularly in the low red. And that's where our issues were against Syracuse. And I'm not insinuating that's why we had to kick field goals. That's not what I'm saying there. I'm just saying that and how we communicate at the line of scrimmage. We can do better. I can do better as a coach, and I'll learn from it, and we will implement a plan that gives our best chance.
You mentioned that you've seen more of Kentucky's defense at this point. In the middle of that defense is a potential top 10 pick with Deion Walker. So for the offensive line for you guys, are you going to have to adjust any blocking schemes?
What jersey numbers? Is that
0?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, 0. I know. Right now, early in the week, I just numbers. I know our guys' names, but 0. He's a dude now. He's a top. Yeah, he's a first rounder. I mean, he is dynamic. And I mean they're all good. Don't get me wrong, but he is. They're really, really, really good on defense. I mean, I'm not. I mean, probably as good as defense since Ohio State in 8. I mean, they returned 9 starters when we played them. They returned 9 starters. And they had the #1 defense in the country. I know. I mean, there's been we played some good ones. But they're going to be up there. I can't remember where Kentucky was last time we played there. I don't think they couldn't have been as good as they are now. They're really, really good.
Does it tell you anything? They shut at home by South Carolina. They come back last week and they had a touchdown taken away on an interception. Does that tell you anything at all? Do you even look at that?
To me, it's to their coaching staff. That's to me. I know I talked about Coach Stoops, but I mean he's got his players listening. Because they had that game. That's what you just described, Marty, and they respond. They're playing Georgia. They responded like, what you're after. He's got to be proud of it. I would think. I'm sure his coaching staff. He challenged them, and he's got their locker room. They went out there and delivered. And because they continue, they play hard. There wasn't. You could just see it on film. It speaks volumes to their staff. That's how I view it. I hope that our film shows that to our opponents. That's a goal as a head coach.
This might be a loaded question, but why do you guys believe you can go into Kentucky and win this weekend?
Yeah, it's just what we do here, and it's just, hey, let's go play. It's just, yeah.
So if you look at what's happened in the MAC here in the first 3 weeks, Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame, Toledo beating Mississippi State, are you guys looking at any of those games kind of as a, we can do this, from the MAC beating a Power 14?
I haven't thought about it that way. And I know we talked a little bit about when Northern won, that was a big win for Coach Candle. He's a friend of mine. We talked a little bit back and forth yesterday, but 20 years here, to me, that's happened a lot. That happens. I can't say. I'm not sure if it's ever happened back-to-back weeks. I don't keep track of it that close, but our conference, every year, it happens. And it's great for our league. Our commissioner, I'm sure is excited. It's great publicity. This day in the age in the portal, that was my comment. Like last week, you just, I had a better feel for it because you knew the turnover. It wasn't, now you just don't know. You just don't know the turnover on the programs, and because the scores can be like what you're referencing, underdog, but then you got some scores that are, it's in the 70s. Because you just don't know the turnover, and that's what I mean. That's what I mean by I don't have a feel, because you just don't know everybody's roster and what they've lost and what they picked up. It's a lot, and so the scores
are the scores. I don't know anything about Mississippi State, really, or Toledo. But they got after them pretty good, and our league's been one that has always been able to win a couple of those games each year.
But you guys have spent over 20 years here at Ohio, a very long tenure, and you've seen your fair share of Power 4, Power 5 upsets. But what do you think it would mean to you and the community and the OU fans for you to win a game against an SEC opponent?
Yeah. It's hard for me to look at it like that. It's another game, and whether it doesn't matter who it is. I want the fans and the players to have the same jubilant reaction when you win. That's who it is really not a thing. I just know how I look at it. I'm not saying it wouldn't be great. I'm just speaking from the heart and how I see it.